Hello bakers and bakerettes, how are you? I'm back doing what I do best, baking. Tonight I'm going to bake a red velvet cake. I'm not going to do a 2-layer on this one. I'm going to make this one an actual Bundt style cake. So to the blender I've already added 1.5 cups of white granulated sugar. To that, I'm going to add 1/2 cup of Crisco shortening. But of course, you know, you can use whatever sugar you would like. You can use whatever shortening you would like. Now that I have the sugar and the shortening in the blender, I'm going to turn on the speed to stir, and I'm going to cream the sugar and the shortening until it's light and fluffy. Right now I'm just stirring it just to get everything incorporated together. While the sugar and the shortening are creaming, I'm going to go ahead and prepare my paste, which is going to be 2 tablespoons of the cocoa, and of course I use the Hershey's cocoa. I use the special dark. And then you're going to add to this 4 tablespoons of red food coloring. So that's 1 tablespoon. So each one of these bottles hold 1 tablespoon. I'm going to adjust the speed just slightly here. I'm going to place you on a brief pause while I get 2 more bottles of red food. Alright? I had to get 2 more bottles of the red food color. So I got my food coloring transferred over to my cocoa. So I'm going to stop the blender. I'm going to scrape down the sides and the bottom. All right. Give it a few more minutes and it should be light and fluffy. And while that is still creaming, I'm going to make the paste. This is just simply the red food coloring and the cocoa. And you notice this recipe is different from the one I did with the blue velvet. You can't just take a recipe and say, oh, I'm just going to add a different color food coloring to it, because it's not going to come out right. So you take it and you make a really nice paste, as you can see. Right? Now this is ready. I'll set that aside. Next, I'm going to add 2 eggs, and these eggs have to be at room temperature, and you must add them one at a time. Right? So I'll add my first egg. And again, with the eggs, all you have to do basically is just make sure the yolk is broken and that it's evenly distributed throughout your cream mixture. Now I'll add the second egg. Increase the speed just to make sure that the eggs get well beaten and incorporated into the cream, sugar, and shortening. So everything is blended and incorporated really good. Looks nice. So now the paste that I made, I'm going to add my cocoa with red food coloring paste to my cream, sugar, shortening, and eggs. I'm just going to add the paste to it. So I think I've gotten everything off of the spoon as much as I possibly can. It is a paste. So now I'm going to turn the blender on stir just to get everything well incorporated. Then I'll beat it to make sure that it blends in. I'm going to increase the speed just slightly. I'm not going to beat it too much because I'm going to make sure it's well beaten when I get to the end, the last process before I put it in the cake plate. And as you can see, I'll let that last little bit drop off. As you can see, it is red. Let's turn the light on here so you can see it pretty good. All right? It's red. So now, I'll reattach my mixer bowl. Very vibrant red. So now at this point, I'm ready to add the flour and the buttermilk, like alternating. So you need 1 cup of buttermilk. And of course, if you don't have buttermilk, you can just take some whole milk, add 1 tablespoon of vinegar or 1 tablespoon of lemon juice to it, fresh lemon juice, and let it sit for 10 minutes and you have buttermilk. I actually didn't have any today, so I made some. All right, so I have 1 cup of buttermilk. Now to the 1 cup of buttermilk, you need to add 1 teaspoon of salt. I know I have a teaspoon around here somewhere. Okay, just one moment. No worries. I have backup. So you want to add 1 teaspoon of salt. And you add this to the buttermilk. And you're also going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla flavor. And I use the Watkins Bacon Vanilla, which I'm sure by now you know. Okay. You're going to add this to your buttermilk. And you're going to just stir it lightly just to make sure that it's all mixed and incorporated in together. Okay? And the next thing you're going to do is you're going to add 2½ cups of all-purpose flour. Right? And this is White Lily's flour. And you want it to be sifted. A lot of people choose to use the cake flour because you really don't have to sift it. But I use White Lily. So that's 1 cup. And I just use this little mesh colander, which works really good as far as sifting. And when you sift it, you're just getting all the clumps out. And like, depending on where you store your flour, if you store it in the refrigerator or if you store it in a container, if it sits for a long period of time, it'll like get little lumps and clumps. So just making sure that it's your flour is smooth and that you have very fine particles. Okay, so that's going to be 2 cups of flour. And we need 2½ cups. Okay. All right, so we have our 2½ cups of all-purpose flour, and it is sifted. All right, those last little pieces are like little balls floating around. All right, there we go. The next thing I'm going to do is alternating between the all-purpose flour and the buttermilk that has the salt and the vanilla in it. I'm going to just alternate between the two, adding them to my mixture. All right, so we'll start off with a cup of flour. We're going to add that in. And we're just going to stir. We're not going to beat it or blend it right now. We're just going to stir it and make sure that the flour gets incorporated into our mix. will increase the speed. This is a beautiful red. This is going to be a perfected red velvet cake. So now I want to add half of the milk. And that's about half. Turn the speed on stir, of course. I had flour on my hands, so now I guess I have it on my apron, but that's okay. Now we're going to add our second cup of flour. Place it on stir. Right now we're just getting everything incorporated together. You can ramp the speed up just slightly here. And now I can add the last half a cup of buttermilk that has the salt and the vanilla. Place it on stir. Increase the speed here just to make sure that it's mixing well. Now I add my last half a cup of flour. Stir. I'm going to increase the speed, make sure it's blended well. Okay, now I'm going to prepare, let's just turn this off. Now I'm going to prepare the baking soda with the white distilled vinegar, all right? So I need, and I usually do this in like a plastic bowl because this is vinegar. It's called glacial acetic acid. It's a very weak acid, but yet it is an acid. And this is gonna be a base, and I don't wanna do it in the metal pan because I don't want it to tarnish it. So here you need 1 tablespoon of vinegar, white distilled vinegar. So that's 1 tablespoon. And to that, I'm going to add 1½ teaspoons of baking powder. Excuse me, baking soda. Baking soda. So that's my 1. It already starts to fizz up. This is going to help with the leavening process here. This is going to make it real light and real fluffy. And if you notice the way that I bake the cakes, only with the regular pound cakes do I usually mix them the same way. But when I do the red velvet, blue velvet, and purple velvet, these are all different. Okay, so now I've got this mixed, and I want to fold this in to my cake batter. Okay, so I just simply transfer it to the cake batter, and it is a weak acid. It's not going to completely dissolve with the baking soda. It just fizzes and it releases the gas, CO2 gas, because this will be considered an acid-base reaction. All right, so I'm just folding it in. So I just put it on stir. Okay. And now I'm going to scrape down the sides. And when you fold it in, you don't want to sit and just beat it and beat it and beat it. What I'm going to do right now is just release the sides of my mixing bowl and also the bottom. Because, you know, whenever you do chocolate cakes or red velvets or any type of velvet cake, it clings to your mixing bowl and it definitely sticks on the bottom. So you want to make sure that you release it so that everything gets mixed. Because with these cakes, you're quick to put them in a baking pan, and as soon as you get it in the baking pan, if you haven't scraped the sides of your mixing bowl, you realize you have a clump in the bottom. So you always want to make sure that you're clearing the sides, releasing everything, loosening it up, getting it all folded in and incorporated together to make a uniform mixture. So that your cakes come out really fluffy and light, and they have a really good texture to them. All right. And you know, the velvets are kind of messy. I guess they all are, but when you have color, it just makes a difference. So I'm placing on stir. So with this one, I'm going to ramp my speed up to like 2. I'm just getting everything mixed well. And now I'll ramp it up to 4. I just want to make sure that everything is well incorporated into this cake batter. While that's taking place, I'm going to go ahead and get my pan ready for the oven. Take the speed back down because, like I said, I don't want to beat it too hard. So I'm just going to spray the pan down. Coat it very well. Even with this one, I like to sprinkle sugar. Sugar gives it a really good texture and a really good coating, and also it helps to release it from the baking pan. A lot of people don't realize that. All right. So now I'll give it one last stir, make sure it's a really good one. I'm going to scrape down the beater and just make sure that everything's in the mixing bowl. All right. And as usual, I just fold it into the baking pan, going in a circular motion, just like the pan is in. And when it seems like it doesn't want to flow anymore, I just scrape down the sides and keep moving around the pan in a circle until I have everything incorporated into my baking pan. Usually I do these as a 2-layer cake. But I'm, for the sake of time and also for the sake of traveling, having to commute this, I'm going to put it in a Bundt style because it'll travel much better than the layers. Okay. I think I have everything transferred over pretty neat. All right, so now with this one, as usual, I'm going to twist the pan and tap it. I just twisted it around in a circle really good and tap it. And when you tap it, you're releasing the air bubbles that are trapped so that your cake doesn't have a void or openings in between it. It just, when you slice the cake, it's really smooth and has a really nice texture, and everything was incorporated together. Alright, so now my cake is ready to be placed in the oven. So now I'm going to take it, and this is my smooth pan, so I just place it on the rack. And I'm going to allow it to cook. Now, usually you would bake them on about 350 for roughly about 30 minutes if you were using the 9-inch round pans. I am going to do a Bundt style, and I'm going to adjust my temperature to 325 because I want that leavening process between the vinegar and the baking soda that was incorporated in this cake to really work. So the objective is to have a lower bake time, a lower bake temperature, excuse me, and a longer bake time in order for that leavening process to take place and the cake to actually be done. So with this cake, I'm going to bake it on 325 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 325 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'm going to bake this one anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour. Depending on your oven and your oven's temperature. I know my oven, you know your oven. But I've never done this particular red velvet cake in the Bundt style pan. So I'm going to check it at 30 minutes. I'm going to check it at 45 minutes. If it's done in between that time, I will pick you back up. If not, I'll check it again in an hour. And then I will bring you back when it's time to remove it from the oven and when it is time to allow it to cool on the rack and then get ready to place the icing on it, which is going to be a cream cheese icing. I'll pick you back up. Okay, guys. The red velvet Bundt cake or red velvet pound cake is ready. Right? Beautiful red. Right? I'm going to allow it to cool. I do have some homemade cream cheese icing that I had made. I made double because I baked another cake and I put this on it. So I'm going to let the cake cool and then I'm going to place the icing on it. So with that being said, I will pick you up when it's time to icing it. Okay, everyone. So now it's time to icing the cake. Right? Again, this is a red velvet cake, and this is somewhat of a different recipe. Well, I would say a different way of mixing the recipe, and it makes a very moist and fluffy cake. It's all in the chemistry. It's all in knowing the ingredients and how they mix with each other, their purpose in the bake, and then when you do them the way I do, the cake tastes so different. Then take one of your old recipes and mix it up, prep it the way I do mine, and notice the difference in the cake, the texture, flavor. And I am putting this on while it's a little bit warm, not really hot, but that's because I want the icing, this is cream cheese icing, to kind of melt and run down. I don't want it to be like just really coated on the cake, like just sitting there. Alrighty. I think we're going to have just enough icing for this cake. The icing's going on very well. And when it comes to the flavor of the icing, you know, you can, if you want to use more cream cheese, that's up to you. Again, whenever you bake, it's based on your preference and your taste and what your family, friends, co-workers, you know, what they like. And then you'll never go wrong. If you want less cream cheese, do less cream cheese. If you want to put more of a powdered sugar glaze across it, that's acceptable as well. And you can use, depending on how sweet you want it, you can use between 4 and 6 cups of powdered sugar, and then you adjust the milk by tablespoons to make sure you get it to the consistency that you want, whether you want it loose and running or you want it to be thick and coated on the cake. And it all depends on the sugar, amount of sugar, and the quantity of milk by tablespoon that you add to it. All right. Well, we have this one, another one in the box. Or I should say another one out of the oven. All right. So now we have red velvet pound cake with homemade cream cheese icing, totally from scratch. Right. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of you all for joining me. If you like my baking videos, cooking videos, please click the thumbs up. That tells YouTube that you like it, and it just increases the algorithm where it actually is being pushed into other viewing perspectives for others to see as well. If you have a comment, please leave it, negative or positive. Positive I respond to, negative I stroll right by. If you would like to receive the notifications as quick as something is uploaded on YouTube, click that notification bell and select all, and as soon as I upload a video, you'll be the first one to see it. All right, so like, subscribe, click the notification bell, select all, and I will see you guys on the next bake.